my brief said that I was to end by offering any reflections I could think of against the title of the event, Strengthening Civil Society and its Impact. Now, I'm in no position really to be an expert on its impact at Westminster, but I think there are some lessons from the very real impact which the sector has here in Wales, which might have some wider generalisation. So here are, I think it's 6 suggestions. So my first suggestion is, in order to be influential, you must be authentic. You have to speak with the authentic voice of the sector itself. It is very much a temptation for the sector, isn't it, to follow the latest fashion, particularly where funding is concerned. But I'm afraid that in the end, that shape-shifting approach to the relationship with government undermines one of the core strengths that the sector has. To be influential, you must be yourselves. You must think of your strengths and you must be prepared to advocate for them, even when the tide appears to be flowing against you or the wind is blowing in your face, because in the long run, your authenticity will stand you in the greatest stead of all. Secondly, be authoritative. Make sure that when you have things to say, you have done the work that is necessary to have the power of argument firmly behind what you are saying, whether that is through the work that the sector does with colleagues in universities and in research foundations, or even more perhaps when you draw on the lived experience of the people with whom the sector is in direct contact. That is what gives the authority to the things that you say, because you are directly reflecting the lives and the experiences of the people with whom you are in contact, in a way that governments often can't be, in that absolutely frontline sort of way. My third suggestion is to remember to be local, because when you are in contact with a Westminster government, even more so than Wales. Wales, small country, 3 million people, a bit like a village, we tend to know each other, all of those sort of things. But nevertheless, Wales is not the same from one place to another. The experience of growing up in Riverside here in Cardiff, in the inner city where I live, where the language most likely to be heard other than English is Bengali, will be very different to the experience on the Llŷn Peninsula in North Wales, where the language most likely to be heard is Welsh, and you would hear some English occasionally. Those are very different experiences, and to be local is to be in touch with the identity of the place that you represent. And if you're going to be authentic and authoritative, I think you do that most of all and most powerfully when you are reflecting the local experiences, the grounded experiences of the people with whom you are in contact. Here's a slightly different suggestion, and it's born out of my experience in politics more than in community work and other things that I've done, and that's to remember to be there. Because if you want to be influential in the political world and in government world, then if you're not in the room where the decision is made, then it doesn't matter how authoritative your report is, how well you speak on behalf of the people that you know. If you're just absent when the decision is made, you will never be influential. So there is something very important in the world of government and politics, which maybe is not so true of other worlds, and being there, just making sure you're in the room at the time when things are coming to a decision is a really important quality. That's why we have the WCVA run the table in the Social Partnership Council, to make sure that the voice of the sector is there, in the room, at the point that it is coming to that point of decision making. Two last ones, and they are linked, I guess. The next suggestion I have for you is to be vocal. To be vocal. To speak up for the people who otherwise do not have a voice at all. I think one of the things that we have lost, in the long years now that I've been involved in these things, we have lost some of those organisations who were prepared to say difficult things to governments and were prepared to be bold, that's my final one, to be bold in the way that they made those representations. When I was a probation officer here in Cardiff, when I first came to Cardiff in the 1980s, some of the most powerful work that was done by the National Association of Chief Officers of Probation, who commissioned research and published research that talked about the way in which people in deprived communities, who were much more likely to get caught up in the criminal justice system, just at the pressures that were on their lives in that era of cutbacks and retrenchment and all the things that Mrs. Thatcher brought us, and which I'm not likely to celebrate for you this evening, despite the new vogue for doing so. But the fact that, and these were the most senior probation officers in the land, were prepared to put their names to reports which were uncomfortable for government, giving a voice to, speaking up for, being vocal, being bold, because it wasn't easy to put your head above the parapet then. I don't think they do it today. I doubt very much whether you would find, very senior public service employers prepared to be the voice of the people who are otherwise voiceless in the way that people were then. And that means that the work that civil society does becomes even more important, because if you can't give a voice to those communities and those individuals, I really, really don't know who does. So, these are more conflicted times, debates are sharper, the impact of social media is divisive, all of those things we know. When people say things that powerful governments find uncomfortable, they're very likely to shoot back. Well, I think the moral courage, I don't know that being in politics is much other sort of courage. We don't go into battle, but moral courage is a courage you have to say the difficult things, even when you know that things will be difficult in return, and in a way to march towards the sound of gunfire, rather than to be prepared to be put off by it. And those, I think, in terms of the things that I feel I've learned a bit about during the time that I've been here, would be amongst the things that I think would add up to the qualities that it would take to strengthen that impact when there is a different opportunity, as I certainly hope there will be, to have an impact on Westminster governments in the years to come. Diolch yn fawr. Thank you all very much.